Joined from Brazzaville by Raphaël Parence, who is researcher at the Foreign Policy Research Institute. Thanks for joining us. Thanks as well to Niagale Bakayoko, chair of the African Security Sector Network. Welcome to both of you. We heard the reaction there of Sergei Lavrov saying it's business as usual for Wagner and for Russia in the Central African Republic. Any word from Mali's junta?
No, at this stage, we have not heard anything, but I think it is absolutely logical because Malian authorities have never recognized the presence of Wagner in the country, even if everyone knows that they are here, definitely. But they always been pretending that they are only Russian instructors, and in fact, it is exactly going in the same direction as the last declaration of Sergei Lavrov.
Raphaël Parence, is it going to be business as usual?
Short term, it definitely will be business as usual. We saw a Russian Ministry of Defense plane land there today that had originally been in Russia and then had gone through Syria. So I think those sort of relationships will continue for the time being. It's more of a question of whether the Russian state will continue to back the Wagner Group in Mali. And if that doesn't happen, whether the Wagner Group can maintain its presence in the country. It hasn't been able to find the same kind of mining, extractive resources contracts in Mali that it was able to do in CAR. So it's unclear how much funding it is currently having and how much the Russian state is actually contributing.
What about Sudan, where Wagner was brought in because of those gold mines there?
I think Sudan is a bit more of a confusing case because both Wagner and the Russian government haven't necessarily chosen a side. Although Wagner has given some weapons to the RSF, that's not a clear demonstration of intention. I think they will wait until the conflict is a little like the results of the conflict are a little bit clearer because their interests in the country are so important, whether that's the gold mining or Port Sudan, which are both very important to Russia and to the Wagner Group.
The European commissioner, whose job it is to deal with all things that have to do with right now the war effort in Ukraine. Thierry Breton was interviewed at Niagale Bakayoko by French radio. Thierry Breton, who asked the open question, this is a private military group, mercenaries. Mercenaries, you have to pay them. He said, what's going to happen in Mali? And he mentioned in the same breath Burkina Faso, which officially has always denied having the Wagner Group there. What's the answer to Thierry Breton's question?
As regards Burkina Faso, there is absolutely no idea about what the authorities are intending. Exactly what they are aiming to obtain from Russia is a support to their own private, self-defense groups, the so-called VDP, and not a foreign engagement on the ground.
So it's a different case from Mali.
It is a completely different case for Mali. But more broadly, both as regards Central African Republic or Mali, I think it is very important to consider Wagner as an extension of the Russian state, which is mixed with private and sometimes criminal interests. I think it is a too limited view to consider it only as a mercenary private company. And we can see that the different branches of Wagner groups have different kind of involvement in different African countries. For instance, in the Central African Republic, you have the three kind of Wagner activities: military, informational and mining. But in Mali, it is far from being exactly the same situation as regard gold mining, for instance. They are never have been able to get national contracts. Only artisanal gold mining has been viewed there. So I don't think the Wagner activities in Africa or even elsewhere are well considered when only seen through an individual. There is a need to look at them as an institution, and I think that the Russian state, Russian diplomacy itself, need it to promote its own interests and in particular its own foreign policy.
An extension of the Russian state. Raphaël Parence, you agree?
Yes, I do agree, and I think that's a big reason why the Wagner Group has not been able to deploy into Burkina Faso. I think it has been constrained by its operations in Ukraine to the point where the Russian state is unable to provide a lot of support, whether it's generally air support for activities both in Central African Republic and in Mali, which have constrained the group, such that it also seems likely that this deployment in Ukraine is also preventing the Russian government from providing both the military support and for the Wagner Group itself from having the numbers in order to deploy to Burkina Faso as well.
Burkina Faso, CAR, Mali, all former French colonies. How does Paris play this? What's the next move by France in all of this, Negeri Bakayoko?
What is important is the fact that Sergei Lavrov himself has mentioned the fact that, in fact, French-speaking countries had to get in touch with Wagner Group and Russia because France and more broadly Western partners were stepping back from terrorism fight and from military engagement. So, of course, among the informational activities I was mentioning, there is also these French targets, which Russia is trying to undermine via the Wagner Group. But it is also very important to say, and that's exactly what Raphael was saying, that Russia is also key in the Russian state is also key in the deployment of the Wagner Group itself from a logistical point of view.
We're out of time, Raphaël Parence, but does the message of Sergei Lavrov still carry after what happened on Saturday?
Yes, I think it still does, because in a lot of these states, there isn't a very good alternative, unfortunately, for the Wagner Group, especially after France was basically unceremoniously kicked out of these countries, at least on the military side. They don't have a lot of other partners that they can turn to. So unless, there's basically no one else to look to, unfortunately.
Raphaël Parence, many thanks for being with us from Brazzaville. Negeri Bakayoko, thanks for stopping by.